I always start my day with a smile and this little exercise.
I am 91 years old, and I am going to tell you the brutal truth about why your legs feel heavy, cold, and dead at the end of the day. Society tells us that as we get older, we have earned the right to rest. They tell us to sit in our recliners, elevate our feet, and let the compression socks do the work. That is a lie. Elevating your feet is not resting, it is surrender. It is allowing the blood to pool in your lower extremities until your veins bulge, your skin thins out like wet paper, and your feet become unrecognizable blocks of ice. The medical industry hands you blood thinners and tells you to avoid stairs. They are managing your decline, not fixing your circulation. Today I am going to share a singular, ancient mechanical movement that forces the blood back up to your heart. It is a movement that literally saved me from a wheelchair. But I will not speak into a void. I am speaking to those who refuse to let their bodies wither away in a chair. If you are tired of the numbness, if you are terrified of losing your legs, I need you to subscribe right now. Leave your exact age and where you are watching from in the comments below, so we can prove that we are not going to quietly fade into the background. The loss of your legs does not happen overnight. It does not announce itself with a sudden dramatic event. It whispers. It begins in the quiet, humiliating moments that we refuse to speak about, even to our own families. It begins with the socks. You notice the deep, angry red grooves left pressed into your skin when you take them off at night. The flesh taking hours to return to its normal shape. Then comes the cold, a bone-deep, unnatural, terrifying cold that creeps into your toes and refuses to leave, no matter how many heavy wool blankets you pull over yourself in the dark. You wake up in the middle of the night and your feet feel entirely detached from your body. They feel like heavy, lifeless blocks of wood tethered to your ankles. We ignore these whispers. We attribute them to the weather. We blame the shoes we wore that day, or we convince ourselves that we simply walk too much. But the whispers inevitably grow into shouts. Soon it is the sharp, stabbing sensation of pins and needles when you first try to stand up from the dining table. It is the heavy, dragging ache in your calves after walking a mere 50 feet to the mailbox. An ache that forces you to stop and pretend to admire the neighbor's garden, while you secretly pray for the burning in your muscles to stop. You look down at your shins in the harsh fluorescent light of your bathroom, and you see the undeniable map of your own deterioration. The skin becomes shiny, brittle, and terribly thin, lacking the vital nourishment of oxygen. The veins twist and bulge, turning into thick purple cords beneath the surface. You touch your own ankle, and it feels swollen, tight, and completely alien. You are looking at tissue that is slowly starving. I remember the exact morning the terror finally broke through my wall of denial. I was 84 years old. I sat on the edge of the mattress, preparing to stand up, and I looked down at my feet resting on the floorboards. The color had drained from them entirely. They were a pale, waxy yellow, tinged with a faint bruised blue around the heels and the nail beds. When I pressed my thumb into the top of my foot, the indentation simply stayed there. The flesh did not bounce back. It was as if I were pressing into cold, wet clay. In that silent, terrifying moment, listening to the ticking of the hallway clock, I realized my legs were slowly dying while still attached to my body. The blood was flowing down, pooling in the lowest extremities, trapped by gravity and failing vascular valves, and it had absolutely no mechanical way to get back up. We are taught to fear heart attacks and strokes. We are taught to watch our cholesterol and measure our blood pressure every morning. But no one warns you about the slow, agonizing strangulation of your lower limbs. They do not tell you that poor circulation is the quiet thief that steals your independence step by step, inch by inch. It steals your ability to drive confidently. It steals your ability to walk through a grocery store without heavily leaning on a shopping cart for sheer physical survival. It traps you inside the walls of your own home, making you a prisoner to your own failing vascular system. You start to map out your daily life based entirely on where you can sit down. You calculate the distance from the car to the doctor's office, from the kitchen counter to the living room armchair, terrified that your legs will simply give out beneath you. This is not living. It is a slow, agonizing wait for the inevitable decay. The moment you confess this heavy, dragging pain to a physician, the trap is set. They look at your chart, they note your advanced age, and they nod with that familiar, patronizing sympathy reserved exclusively for the elderly and the dying. They tell you that your vascular valves are weakening. They tell you that gravity is taking its natural toll. And then they offer you the modern medical solution for aging legs. They tell you to manage the decay. They prescribe expensive, agonizingly tight compression stockings that take 20 minutes, a broken fingernail, and breathless exertion just to pull over your heels. They tell you to take your daily blood thinners to prevent clots. And most destructively, they tell you to go home, sit in your armchair, and keep your feet elevated above your heart. This is the great lie of modern aging. Sit down, rest, put your feet up. They package immobility as a medical treatment. When you sit in a mechanical recliner for 6, 8, or 10 hours a day with your feet propped on a pillow, you are entirely bypassing the natural mechanics of your human body. You are relying on gravity to temporarily drain the stale fluid from your legs, instead of using the biological pump designed to forcefully push fresh, oxygen-rich blood into your starving tissue. The moment you stand back up to use the bathroom, the fluid crashes right back down into your ankles with a vengeance. You have solved absolutely nothing. You have only accelerated the atrophy of the very calf muscles required to keep you alive and upright. I followed their rigid rules for 3 long years. I bought the expensive mechanical lifting chairs. I wrestled with the compression garments that left my skin dry, itchy, and flaking away. I swallowed the pills on schedule, and my legs only grew heavier. The terrifying numbness crawled higher up my shins. The night cramps, the kind that seize your calf muscle like a twisted steel vise and leave you gasping and gripping the bedsheets in the dark, became a weekly, then a nightly occurrence. I was doing exactly what the experts told me to do, and I was still standing on the precipice of losing my mobility entirely. The breaking point came when I could no longer walk up the 3 small concrete steps to my own front door without stopping to catch my breath and let the burning ache in my calves subside. I stood there on my own porch, gripping the metal handrail with white knuckles, looking at the wood grain of my front door, and I realized a brutal truth. If I could not cross my own threshold, I would have to sell the house. I would have to be moved into a sterile facility where there are no stairs, no steps, and no freedom. I refused to let my vascular system dictate the tragic end of my story. I refused to become a helpless patient waiting for a stranger to rub ointment on my rotting shins. If you are listening to this right now and you feel that exact same dread, the deep, cold fear of becoming a burden to the children you once carried in your own arms, I have left a critical, comprehensive guide in the pinned comment below this video. Read it tonight. It is the exact blueprint for taking back the physical autonomy that society assumes you will quietly surrender. I threw the compression socks into the back of the closet. I stopped treating my legs like fragile, broken glass, and I began to study the mechanics of human survival. I looked backward, away from modern pharmaceuticals and passive recliners, and toward ancient physical practices that understood the human body as an integrated, powerful machine. What I discovered changed the entire trajectory of my final decades. I discovered that the human heart in your chest, as powerful as it is, was never designed to pull blood all the way up from your feet against the crushing force of gravity entirely on its own. Your body has a second heart. It is located in the lower half of your body, and for most of us over the age of 70, it has been completely turned off by modern convenience. This second heart is the soleus muscle, located deep inside the calf. Every time this specific muscle flexes and contracts under your body's load, it physically and violently squeezes the deep veins of your leg, shooting blood and lymphatic fluid straight upward. It defies gravity. It flushes out the toxins and the stagnant vascular pooling that causes the dangerous swelling. When you sit in a chair all day, this pump dies. The blood sits. The tissue starves. I adopted a singular rhythmic movement, an ancient, deliberate mechanical action used for centuries in Eastern disciplines to cultivate internal energy and force deep circulation. It is not jumping, it is not running. It is a slow, methodical, agonizingly precise shifting of the body's entire weight. Standing barefoot on a hard wooden floor, you lift your heels just a fraction of an inch, transferring every ounce of your skeletal weight onto the dense bones of your forefoot. You hold the tension. You feel the deep burning flex in the lower calf. And then, with absolute control, you lower the heel back down, striking the floor with a dull, firm resonance that sends a mechanical shock wave straight up the leg. Heel, toe, toe, heel. A rhythmic, relentless compression. It sounds far too simple. The medical experts laugh at it because they cannot patent it and put it in a pill bottle. But when you do this movement strictly, deliberately, for minutes at a time, something miraculous happens beneath the dying skin. You are manually restarting the biological pump. The first time I did it, the pain was sharp. My calves cramped in rebellion. My ankles shook in sheer weakness. But I did not stop. I anchored my hands to the edge of the kitchen counter, and I forced the muscles to fire. I forced the blood to move. Within 10 minutes, I felt something I had not felt in half a decade. Heat. A deep, rushing, tingling warmth spreading from my ankles all the way down to the very tips of my toes. It was the physical sensation of oxygen rushing back into deadened nerves. The veins in my feet, which had looked like thick blue cords of rope for years, slowly began to flatten. The tight, painful swelling around my ankles began to soften. I was not resting. I was working the machine the exact way it was designed to be worked. I do this movement every single day. I do it while waiting for the kettle to boil. I do it while staring out the window at the morning frost on the lawn. It is a non-negotiable ritual of daily survival. The heavy, dead sensation that used to anchor my feet to the floor is entirely gone. The unnatural, waxy pallor of my skin has been replaced by the healthy flush of living, circulating blood. The deep, agonizing nighttime cramps that used to wake me in a cold sweat have vanished because my muscles are no longer choking on their own metabolic waste while I sleep. When I walk into the clinic now, the vascular specialists stare at my lower extremities in total confusion. They press their thumbs into the top of my foot, expecting to see the deep pit of edema, the pooling of fluid that marks the irreversible decay of old age. The flesh bounces right back. They check my pedal pulse, expecting the faint, thready beat of a failing cardiovascular system. Instead, they feel the strong, rhythmic thud of a vascular network that has been forced back online. They ask me if I secretly changed my medication dosage. They ask me if I bought a more expensive custom brand of compression garment. I tell them I threw their garments in the trash, and I started using the muscles I was born with to push my own blood through my own veins. They write notes in my file, unable to comprehend that the cure for immobility is not a softer chair, but a violent refusal to stop moving. I am 91. I know that the horizon is closing in. I know that this physical vessel will eventually fail me. I am not performing these movements because I believe I will live forever. Immortality is an illusion sold to fools. What I am fighting for, what I demand from every remaining day of my life, is the right to walk to my own bathroom, to stand at my own kitchen sink, and to cross my own threshold without depending on the strength of a stranger's arm. The true terror of old age is not death. It is the slow, humiliating loss of agency. It is the devastating moment you look down at your own legs and realize they no longer obey your commands. Society expects us to surrender to this. They build ramps and automated wheelchairs and mechanical lifts, and they pat us on the shoulder and tell us it is just the natural progression of time. I reject that absolutely. You do not have to accept the cold, heavy deadness in your limbs. You do not have to let your blood pool in your ankles while you wait for the end in a heavily padded armchair. There is a profound, unspeakable dignity in feeling the firm ground beneath your feet, knowing that your legs are strong, warm, and alive. There is a fierce, quiet pride in pushing your own blood through your own veins through sheer willpower and mechanical discipline. We are told to sit down and be quiet. We are told to let others do the heavy lifting as our bodies wither away. I refuse. I will keep my circulation flowing. I will keep the heat in my limbs. I will maintain my iron grip on the keys to my own front door. And when the final day comes, I will not be lifted from a hospital bed by machinery. I will stand up on my own 2 feet, the blood rushing hot through my veins, and I will meet it standing tall.